28 buildings, 16 floors each, more than 20,000 certified residents, poor people stacked on top of one another, their problems multiplied, intensified.
You carry your children downstairs and they play, and you never know what's going to happen. You know, you be sitting down there playing 1 minute, and whenever the fellas get into a rage and want to start shooting, or, you know, a little scuffle come between them, you have to run, and you can't run to the elevator because who going to wait for the elevator when somebody's shooting?
See the mama come down, so get brains up right there. That's all that. See them shot all around the front there, everywhere. See all that. All out in the playground.
Life at Robert Taylor is dominated by welfare, women, and children. A high percentage of Taylor residents receive public aid, and almost 90% of Taylor's households are one-parent families, one woman, that is, with an average of 4 children. At age 23, Janice Love is part of that pattern. She has only 2 children, but they represent the 3rd generation in her family to live or grow up here. For her and hundreds of other women who live here, the absence of a man in the home is considered neither unusual nor necessarily a handicap.
You can have some parents where it's just rough in the household with their man. You got to deal with him. You have to deal with the children, and that's a burden on you too. You got some that's just as worse as the children. You got 3. If you say you got 2 children and a man and yourself, you got 3 children. You got to look after him and the 2 children and the house. So sometimes it's all right and sometimes it isn't for some people.
For young men growing up here, there is no manhood in going to school or landing a job. That is a loser's game. The schools are bad, jobs hard to find.
Still can't get no job just because you got a high school diploma, don't mean you don't get a job. I've been somewhere everywhere looking for a job. So when they look at my face, they tell me, we'll call you so-and-so, so-and-so. I done filled out about 50 applications, ain't not one of them came through yet.
Instead, being a man means being tough, hanging out, playing ball, shooting craps, or sometimes shooting one another when the street gangs turn violent.
It ain't the building, it's the people up in here, you know? That's what it is, it's the people. They be out here shooting niggas off the porches and stuff, man. They're like when my little nephew got shot out there and thing, you know? A 6-year-old boy, man, got killed. They caught they gang banging around here, man.
There is both fear of violence here and acceptance of it, a resignation to what cannot be avoided. Rarely do the elevators run well, and even then they are havens for muggers and rapists. And the stairways are a poor alternative.
I would be afraid to go out at night by myself. And if I'm out, I would be afraid to come in by myself. After 10, when you're out, you have to walk back up. You don't know what's on the stairway waiting for you. And we don't have no security protection at all, so you can't depend on that. That sums it up. Scared.
But despite the crime and the poverty and the unemployment that breeds them, there is still a feeling among some that although the problems are large, they are not insurmountable. There are still people here who care, people who are working for change. And among them, there is no poverty of spirit. They have not given up. Catherine Wallace is one of those people. Her residents' organization, known as Truth, organized this basketball tournament, one of the few forms of organized recreation in the complex.
I would say everybody is a potential victim. That's right. So I think
For members of the group, the main goal is to change at least one sad truth about life at the Taylor homes, that no one is ever safe.
No, but I feel there should be some protection up on this bill. Stop these kids from hanging up under this bill. That's right. Because people are afraid to even visit you up in here.
That's right. Well, that's
why we do it right now. Anybody would look around here, they would be scared to even come in here.
Police do patrol the grounds, but they are often afraid, say the residents, to venture inside when trouble flares. And residents also deride the ineffectiveness of the few armed security guards.
They have people run around saying they are security, but they don't secure anything, to my way of thinking.
If anyone at Taylor needs no security, it is 69-year-old Alan A. Bush. He raised a dozen children here, all now successful by middle-class standards.
I fear the good Lord. I fear no man. You either do or you don't. Get it. I'm just like plenty, a lot of them, but I don't care. Youngsters and all, a lot of them don't like me. But that's where it better be. Just that simple. Ain't nobody ever give me nothing. There was no aid, no relief, nothing. They say everybody up there's on aid and relief. I never done it in my life. And raised 12 children. Never give me nothing. And stayed home up in Madden White 47 years. How about that? And she's still dead.
And so now you can see that it does look more or less like a prison.
But people like Ronald Robinson believe the success stories will continue to be scarce here until the management of public housing is cleaned up.
For people who don't understand public housing, have never lived in it in their lives, and don't know what the real circumstances are, it's very easy to blame the people themselves. But I know, for instance, that it's not the people's fault that the elevators don't run.
Robinson sits on the Board of Commissioners of the Chicago Housing Authority.
Labor unions are getting rich off of public housing. There's special labor laws just for public housing. Again, contractors nationwide are reaping huge profits. So politicians are receiving contributions from the contractors and the labor unions. So everybody is shaking everybody else's hands, and the people who come out on the bottom end are the residents themselves.
Change will not come easily to the Taylor homes. It has been this way here for almost 20 years. And for those who have grown up here, those who know little besides idleness and broken homes, violence and broken dreams, this is the norm, a way of life. Yet for those who have the strength, the struggle continues to salvage a decent life, if only for the children.
If you don't have any hope, you don't have anything else. We are really not surviving here. And we would like to live, you know. So I have always had that hope that maybe one day we will live and not just survive.
It was reminiscent of the bad old days of the 1980s. Cabrini Green suddenly turned into a war zone as Chicago Housing Authority officers tried to catch several suspects in a reported drug sale. When officers caught one of the suspects, a crowd of people, including his relatives, objected. Somehow that confrontation escalated, and a 26-year-old woman who was carrying a child was shot, reportedly by an officer. The crowd grabbed an officer and beat him, and shots were fired from nearby buildings, and the officers were forced back, pinned down by the gunfire. A 16-year-old boy was shot by a stray bullet. Some tenants feel the police were at fault for provoking the confrontation.
We already have it hard enough over here, you know what I'm saying? And then they bring these CHAs over here, man. They've been on this garbage, man.
CHA officials have launched an internal investigation promising a thorough accounting for what happened. While they aren't ready to comment yet on the officers' actions, they deny that CHA police have a bad relationship with Cabrini tenants. Meanwhile, they are promising stepped-up patrols to keep the Green quiet.
We are in the process of redeploying our personnel to have more police officers within the developments.
These problems come at a time when Cabrini Green itself is changing. About a third of the high-rises that were once symbols of urban violence and despair are coming down, to be replaced by a new community, a mix of private and public housing. This morning, Mayor Daley called the melee an isolated incident that he says should reflect on the community itself.
But there's one incident. You can't say this is all the time. The crime has been down there. One incident doesn't reflect the whole community.
The hope here is that the mayor is right, that this is an isolated incident and not a sign of more trouble ahead. At CHA Police Headquarters, Mike Makowitz, CLTV News.
It ain't gonna never stop. As long as that building's standing there, this gonna keep happening.
Cabrini Green residents point the finger squarely at 500 Oak Street. They say the half-vacant building is like a target on a barroom dartboard. Only bullets are the missiles here, and gang members inside shoot back.
Make me feel scared. Yeah, scared.
While most Chicagoans worried Thursday about a forecasted April snowfall, hundreds of Cabrini children also had a nervous eye on the sky. 500 Oak Street, after all, is right next door to Jenner Elementary, and the shooters show no regard for school-bound kids.
It was real loud, and it just had the sound of danger, and me and my mother just started running.
Everyone made it through the front line, only to have more gunfire force the children twice into the school's interior hallway. This has been going on for 2 weeks now.
The little ones cry, and we worry about our kids. They're scared. A lot of them are scared.
And at times it seems there is nowhere to turn.
They have looked in all the apartments, but you know what? People can hide, people can move. It's a very difficult neighborhood to police.
So the community that has faced so many recent challenges,
we're just sort of recovering from the Girl X experience,
is demanding gang members stop creating more trauma for Cabrini's kids.
And we want to come to the table with whoever is out there and whoever desires to come to the table to try to make this community a safe community for all.
If the gangs won't listen to the grown-ups, the children want to add their voices to the plea.
We need this area to play in, not to hear shooting and all that.
Senseless death by terror isn't limited to bombs or embassies abroad. In Chicago, 2 boys, one 8, the other 7, were in court today to face a murder charge as juveniles. They pleaded not guilty to killing an 11-year-old girl to steal her bicycle. CBS's Cynthia Bowers reports.
Chicago police today say they have solved the murder of 11-year-old Ryan Harris, whose badly beaten body was found 2 weeks ago in a lot in this South Chicago neighborhood.
We are certain that we have the right people.
And horrifyingly, the right people appear to be 2 boys, ages 7 and 8. Today, they became the youngest children to be charged with murder in the city of Chicago. Ryan Harris's body was found here in this lot, just 2 blocks from where the 2 boys live. According to police, the 7-year-old knocked her unconscious with a stone. She was then sexually molested and finally suffocated, all because the boys wanted the bicycle she was riding. It was a police house-to-house canvass that turned up the 2 boys, first as witnesses in the case.
It's during these interviews that the kids give the statement that they're responsible for the death of Ryan Harris.
In this poor neighborhood, used to crime, many were having trouble accepting these children could be killers.
First of all, it requires strength and an incredible amount of force and an incredible amount of determination that 7- and 8-year-olds physically do not have.
I was shocked. It was hard to believe, be honest. Yeah, I know that kids very well.
The boys accused of killing Ryan Harris will be tried as juveniles because they're under age 13, and even if convicted, they will be set free no later than age 21. Cynthia Bowers, CBS News, Chicago.
Chicago is planning to place a video camera in every police car following 2 incidents where unarmed African-American suspects were shot to death by officers. Maureen Maher has the latest on yet another big city in police brutality.
Newly released dispatch tapes appear to confirm a Chicago police officer made a serious error in judgment in what began as a routine traffic stop.
What's that car wanted for? If it's just wanted for traffic and it's still going, tell them to stop chasing.
But the chase wasn't halted, and 2 minutes later, LaTanya Haggerty was dead. A rookie cop fired at the 26-year-old computer analyst, mistaking a cell phone for a gun.
My heart is missing a vital part of my life.
Vera Love's son was supposed to graduate from Northwestern University yesterday. But 2 weeks ago, Robert Russ was killed after Chicago police say he tried to grab an officer's gun during a traffic stop. The gun went off. Russ was shot in the heart. Even though both victims were shot by African-American police officers, community leaders say there is a long-standing pattern of excessive force used against blacks.
There is a dirty veil of silence, an evil thin blue line
that lies between police officers and public accountability in this city.
But the city's mayor, Richard Daley, says don't pull his officers into a national debate.
There's not one of them out there who wants to commit police brutality and beating up people. You cannot portray those men and women like that.
7 officers are now under investigation in these 2 cases, and yesterday the Chicago coroner's office ruled the death of another man in police custody a homicide. That, in addition to a Justice Department inquiry, could make this a long, hot summer for a police department already feeling the heat. Maureen Maher, CBS News, Chicago.
A major controversy is stirring over censorship on the internet.
Yeah, this is real excitement. You know, I hope things come out to be better for everybody that lives around here. I lived there on the 8th floor, then I moved to the 2nd floor, then they moved me back here. And now they're trying to move me here. I'm not going.
They're finally tearing down Cabrini Green. For decades, the red and white tenements near downtown Chicago have been a blot on the skyline, the nation's most infamous public housing project, synonymous with gangs, drugs, misery, and murder. And Cabrini Green is just the beginning. The plan is to replace all of Chicago's projects with beautiful new mixed-income developments. That means rich and poor living side by side. So what do you get when you take the country's most disadvantaged families, add in some young professionals, and build them a brand new neighborhood? Chicago is finding out. The experiment is already underway. It started with a bang and a round of applause. All over Chicago, they're tearing down the cinder block dinosaurs known here simply as the projects. They've been a disaster, with generations of children raised in the squalor. But no more. By the end of 2009, all 53 of Chicago's public housing high-rises will be gone. It's the largest demolition of public housing in the nation's history. It will uproot some 40,000 people, many of whom have never lived anywhere else but public housing. People like Larry Sargent. What'd you think when you heard that the city was going to tear down your building?
I was glad.
But you were to lose your home.
I'd rather sleep on a cardboard box in the streets rather than keep going through what I was going through.
In Cabrini Green?
Yes, a child at 12 and 11 years old with a gun, you don't know where you might get it from.
Larry Sargent grew up in Cabrini Green, but when he took on sole custody of his baby son, he knew he had to break the cycle and get out. He never imagined that out might mean this, a brand new $70 million development just 100 yards from Cabrini Green. It's called Northtown Village, 261 condos and townhomes that represent one of the most daring concepts in public housing today. 79 families will have the chance to move out of Cabrini Green and move in here next to someone who bought one of these brand new homes at market rate. A 3-bedroom, top-of-the-line townhome like that costs nearly $500,000. The identical unit next door could be reserved for a Cabrini Green family whose rent is subsidized by the government. The project started 2 years ago with a complex mix of public and private funding. The man on the ground was Peter Holston, an idealistic developer selling this vision of gentrification with a twist.
So here's someone coming in and buying a $500,000 townhome, and we're telling him in the sales trailer, or her, that you will be living, the townhome next to you, which is no different than yours, is going to have a Cabrini Green family in it.
Basically someone who's gotten it for free.
Basically, yeah. And these people are not turning away. They're buying them.
Mark and Amanda Tomlinson bought one. Young professionals, and just engaged then, they stopped by the sales trailer the day it opened.
And I told her, for kicks, bring the checkbook. And it was just a feeding frenzy in there. I mean, everybody was just screaming and yelling. And there's one lady in there that...
Just yelling at her husband, just buy whatever is available. It doesn't matter what it looks like, just buy whatever's left.
The Tomlinsons bought this 3-bedroom townhouse on the spot. Incredibly, all the units sold before they were even built. But why would anyone invest in a neighborhood like this? Because Cabrini Green and now Northtown Village sit just a mile away from Chicago's ritziest strip.
There's tons of shops, great stores, restaurants, and we've already seen huge big box retailers coming in.
You just gotta realize, you go 2 blocks one way, we're in the middle of a public housing. We go 2 blocks another way, we're at Banana Republic. So...
Finding buyers was easy. The hard sell was convincing public housing residents to apply. Peter Holston found that out when he made his pitch to a skeptical crowd at this town hall meeting at Cabrini Green.
We have 2 parks. In the unit 1 park, we'll have a tot lot, and the other park will have like a splash fountain.
Cabrini residents, already angry about being pushed out, thought Peter Holston's offer sounded too good to be true.
Where are the units that are ready right now?
These people are amazed. They're waiting to get taken advantage of. They're waiting to get screwed. They're waiting to, like, something go wrong.
So they're sitting there the whole time saying, what's the catch?
Exactly. Exactly.
And the catch is?
There isn't any. The catch is follow the building rules and enjoy yourself in a wonderful brand new home.
But for many coming from the chaos of Cabrini Green, the building rules are barrier enough. On top of the obvious, no drugs, no loitering, no loud music, there's perhaps the hardest expectation of all, that they fit in with their wealthy neighbors. For Larry Sargent, it all seemed overwhelming. Did you think you had a shot?
Not really. You know, the way it was described as mixed incomes and, you know, there's going to be condominiums and townhouses and coach houses. I'm like, just check it out, you know.
But to get into Northtown Village, Larry Sargent and the other applicants would have to pass a screening process so tough that many people simply dropped out. There's a home inspection, a criminal background check, and mandatory drug tests.
Let's just say there's some addiction issues or violence issues or something like that, you're going to have to fix it.
At the time, Candace Howell was a vice president at Peter Holston's development company. She was in charge of the screening process.
We're looking for things, red flags like criminal behavior against property, criminal behavior against people, guns, drugs, convictions. Because we're not miracle workers.
With that in mind, you might think Larry Sargent's past would disqualify him from landing a spot at the new development. He spent his youth trying to escape all that was wrong with Cabrini Green, joining the Army at 17 to get away. But after 6 years, he ended up right back where he started and spent the last 15 years struggling with drug addiction. But when Northtown Village held its first orientation meeting, Larry Sargent was one of the first to arrive.
Our goal is to try to identify the things that's going to stop you from succeeding and help you move through those things, right? So
Candace Howell made it clear from day one, Northtown Village would be nothing like Cabrini Green. She literally gave lessons on how to get along there.
You get good neighbor training. How do I go out there and be a good neighbor? You know, I mean, maybe some people don't need to know how to do that, but when you've been like watching out your door and wondering who's next door, you know, for all the time you've been in public housing, you might not want to go be no good neighbor. Am I saying that you're going to go out there and set up barbecue grills with the folks next door? Not necessarily so.
We're going to have a bunch of social events, and we're going to push it, push the concept of building a community.
Sherry Wade was desperate for a safer community. A run of bad luck landed her at Cabrini Green 8 years ago. For her 2 youngest children, Travis 12 and Jamila 9, the projects have been a prison. To keep them safe, Wade says, she keeps them indoors.
Kids are supposed to go outside and play and ride bikes, and mine don't do that.
So the ones who grew up in the projects don't even know how to ride a bicycle?
No, they don't.
Larry Sargent and Sherry Wade both made it to the next stage of the application process, which included attending a meeting with some of the buyers.
We might have white neighbors on the 3rd floor, and I live on the 2nd floor, and if they come out And see, my children, I want them to know that if they speak, that you'll speak back.
You know that about them already. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to be the residents that go, you know, like, don't speak to me. You know?
Yeah, we've already
Wade seemed a shoo-in.
This is going to be huge.
But her application hit a snag. Her on-again, off-again husband wouldn't pass the drug test, and she knew it. So she found herself in an incredible position. Her husband on one hand, a brand new home on the other, and Candace Howell in the middle.
Can you make exceptions in a case like that?
Make exceptions for Sherry and then bring in the person next time that had a serious criminal background. They're difficult choices to make.
Sherry Wade saw the writing on the wall and made a wrenching choice. She and her children would leave her husband behind.
I couldn't keep having it happen to the whole family. It wasn't just affecting him, it affected the whole house.
Larry Sargent was determined not to let drugs stand in his way either. He goes regularly for counseling at the VA hospital now, a commitment that helped win him a spot at Northtown Village. He packed up his things, packed up his son, and left Cabrini Green for the last time. Then, just a 5-minute walk away, he began a new life, the sudden sovereign of a brand new 2-bedroom apartment.
It's your bedroom.
With a bird's eye view.
Yep, just sit right here and just watch it happen. It was, told years ago that one day all these projects are going to be gone. And I just never thought that it happened. But it has.
But not everyone will be lucky enough to live in a place like Northtown Village. So far, 36 high-rises are gone. But aside from Northtown Village, construction of new replacement housing has barely begun. And even when it's done, there will be 14,000 fewer public housing apartments than when the demolition began. Peter Holston says it's the biggest hitch in the city's plans.
What's going to happen to all those other families who fall through the cracks?
Well, hopefully they won't fall through the cracks, but you're right. I mean, there is a huge need. In Cabrini alone, I believe there are several thousand families left. It's going to be tight. It's going to be really tight.
This is a crisis. Mixed income isn't the answer. It's not going to accommodate. It's a fraction of the need.
The city's been trying to help others find homes outside public housing with mixed results. Some resentment has been directed at Northtown Village. There's been vandalism and a couple of break-ins. But mostly the people who live at Northtown Village are focused on settling in.
Our next-door neighbor moved in about 2 weeks ago with her couple girls, and they're great.
The Tomlinsons say they hope their presence here makes a difference.
There's been this cycle of isolation that's gone on for, 30, 40 years, whatever it is. And my hope is that this breaks that cycle. In 20 years from now, I think everybody will be happy we did this.
Larry Sargent is glad he did it, as we saw when we went to visit him several months after he moved in. He's been working as a maintenance man for the Holston Group. Look at this. And for the first time, he's proud to call his apartment home. Nice things on the wall.
Oh, yeah, I got them from the dollar store. Most of everything in here is from the dollar store.
It's still a struggle every day, he says, but he hopes the move will give his son the chance he never had.
I give him everything I got, so he don't have to be raised like I was. He'll get a chance to see another part of life at a young age. Hopefully he can take it and go from there, and don't fall into no snake pit like I did.
Sherry Wade still works hard to make ends meet, but says she's already noticed a change in her children and in herself.
We used to go over people's houses to spend the night. Now they want to come home. And I like that.
And as a mother, how does that make you feel?
Like I'm walking in the right direction.
And make her do